ENPA, European Newspaper Publishers Association, the advocate of European newspaper publishers. ENPA is a non-profit international association representing 5,100 national, regional and local newspapers. These daily, weekly and Sunday titles are published in 25 European countries. Every day, more than 120 million copies of newspapers are sold, read by over 235 million citizens in Europe. Millions of unique daily visits on newspapers' websites. Circulation of the smallest local newspapers is about 2,000 copies, while the biggest one has a circulation of almost 4 million copies. Newsprint utilisation rate of 79.9% recovered paper in 2004. Missions of ENPA. ENPA has several objectives: to enable the publishers in Europe to speak with one voice towards the European Union and its institutions, to preserve and promote fundamental rights and in particular freedom of the press as a cornerstone of democracy, as well as commercial freedom as the precondition for economic viability, to present and defend the interests of the press industry as far as any legislative or policy issue might have an influence on the role, the freedom or the economic role of newspapers in Europe, to support access to information, to favour pluralism and diversity of media content. Freedom of the press. Newspapers play a vital role in upholding true freedom of expression in Europe because of their editorial independence from governmental or other influences. Freedom of expression, which is statutorily guaranteed by the European Convention on Human Rights, should be taken into account in the development of all policies at the European level. ENPA calls on the European Union and the Council of Europe to consult newspaper publishers on all draft policies which may have an impact on the freedom of the press. Copyright. Publishers need certainty from legislation in order to remain competitive in the contemporary media landscape. Publishers should have the right to manage and administer copyrights pertaining to their own content, and legislation should support this aim. Collective administration of rights should therefore always remain voluntary and not compulsory. Online and printed newspapers, as collections of individual works and other material, should be recognised as either copyrighted or sui generis databases under the Database Directive, to help them to prevent third-party companies from unfairly taking and exploiting newspapers' material. Media and pluralism. A distinction must be made between media pluralism, media concentration, and changes in ownership structures of newspaper publishing companies. The EU has no competence to regulate either media concentration or changes in media companies' ownership. These remain solely within national competencies. Most of the EU member states already have legislation dealing with these issues. ENPA is helping policymakers by highlighting the positive aspects for newspapers of media concentration at both national and transnational levels. Changes in ownership structures are generating many positive developments. Amongst the different media, newspapers are best equipped to provide diverse and pluralistic daily content to their readers, both through their printed newspapers as well as through their online editions. VAT. ENPA reiterates its commitment to zero-rate VAT on newspaper sales. Every European government should have the possibility to maintain or introduce zero rate for newspaper sales and subscriptions, or the lowest reduced VAT rate possible. Zero, reduced or super reduced rates represent a powerful policy tool to encourage reading and improve knowledge. Higher VAT would mean more expensive newspapers, which would mean fewer readers, advertising revenue losses, and decreases in revenues of taxes for member states. Advertising restrictions. Publishers are very sensitive to the fluctuations in their advertising volumes. These often account for more than half of newspapers' revenues. ENPA insists on the need to preserve freedom of commercial expression and to guarantee the free movement of diverse forms of expression. ENPA fully supports genuine self-regulation of advertising driven by the industry itself. Any statutory restrictions to advertise products or services that can be legally sold or offered will have a detrimental effect on newspapers' competitiveness.